Welcome to the Artistic Enrichment channel. I'm Jeff Ward. I hope you learned something new or helpful today as you strive to develop your artistic talents.
Hello my fellow artists. Today while I demo this still life, we're going to focus on how to make the shadow shapes in your paintings look vibrant and professional. I will cram a lot of instruction into the next 8 minutes, so I hope you learned something new today that will improve your art.
Before we get painting, it's important to spend a second studying your palette. In a future video, I will discuss color theory, palette arrangement, and pigment choices. Suffice it to say that you should have a basic arrangement of blues, reds, and yellows. Nearly all of the rest of the colors, especially earth tones, can be mixed from these 3 primaries plus a white. My palette is constantly evolving and changing. For today's demonstration, it looks like this. Pause now if you want to copy it. As I mentioned earlier, today's focus is on making great shadows. If you can incorporate the following 3 basic rules of traditional painting, you will see your shadow shapes come alive and add vibrance and mystery to your paintings. Number 1, paint from thin to thick. Number 2, paint from dark to light. And number 3, add color variation. Sure, these rules get broken quite often, but there is a reason that they work, and hopefully you'll see today how they are intertwined. Let's discuss the thin to thick principle. Thin paint means that it's more of a liquid consistency than a solid texture. Thin paint has more medium and less pigment in the mix. Like butter, when you take it out of the refrigerator, it's a hard to spread solid opaque yellow. But if you heat it up, it quickly becomes an oily, transparent liquid. Tasty. Oil paints are similar, not when you add heat, but an oil-based medium. This achieves the thinner, more transparent density we want for painting our shadows. I will talk about mediums at length in another video, but for today I've chosen Gamblin's Neo Magilp and a bit of Gamsol odorless mineral spirits. Magilp is just a variation of Merage, which traditionally contained linseed oil and mastic varnish. It gives a silky feel to the paint, and the painters like it because it makes your oil paint dry as quickly as overnight. Sadly, as with all of your painting materials, these really are poisonous and should not be used without a charcoal filtration unit, air replacement system, or a charcoal filter mask. I also wear nitrile gloves to keep the petroleum out of my bloodstream. You can mix these mediums up to about 1/2 with thinner or turpentine to adjust the feel and fluidity. So painting your shadows with thinner paint allows a transparent, translucent look with less texture. This ultimately yields a better optical illusion of a real shadow. Here I've mixed some very dark shadow tones from only the transparent colors on my palette. This will be the basis of all of my shadows in this painting. You'll notice that they all look similar, but if I mix a little white with each one, you can see that a very wide spectrum of colors and temperatures are actually represented here. As I paint this green bottle, you'll see how my shadows are thin, and as I add white or opaque paint, I make it a little thicker. Thicker paint with texture will always appear to stand out and come forward. It gives the optical illusion of 3-dimensional depth in your 2-dimensional painting. Rembrandt and the old masters used this trick masterfully. Unfortunately, the camera's catching a little glare across the surface, which makes this look a little more gray than it really is. Let's talk about the second principle, dark to light. This one becomes self-evident the more you paint. It is also a matter of efficiency and convenience. To keep your shadows clean and transparent and untainted, you'll need to paint them first, and even let them dry if time allows before painting your light shapes. It is helpful to have your darkest dark on the canvas already as you paint, so that your eye can make proper value comparisons and see how the value of each new brushstroke compares to the darkest dark in the composition. Lastly, let's address color variation. I will back up completely on this painting and paint the rest of it following my 3 rules. I have shown how one can achieve many color and temperature variations when mixing dark colors. Using all of these colors would definitely be fun and interesting, but how do you know when and where it is best to use what colors so they don't become a distraction? The key lies in understanding your subject and how the light is interacting with it. For example, on a clear sunny day, your light source is warm. Therefore, your shadow shapes will appear cool, being lit primarily by blue sky. On an overcast day, or with lighting from a north-facing window, your source will be diffused, cool lighting, and your shadows will be warm in temperature. A good rule of thumb is to keep your shadows in the opposite temperature range of your light source. The light source for this still life is a cool white light with a subtle orange glow in the shadows. So as I lay in my darkest shadow shapes, I have mixed a bit of red or burnt umber to keep the temperature warm.
Okay, I've let the painting dry overnight, and because I mixed a fast drying medium with the thin paint, it's already setting up and dry in some places, but still tacky in others. It's difficult to paint on a half-dried oil painting, so be patient with yourself. The trick is not to overwork the surface with your brush by pecking or scrubbing at the surface, but to lay the paint across the top. I can show you how to do this, but it's simply something you have to practice and comes with getting the feel of paintbrush and its limitations.
Here's a close-up of the painting in progress with all the shadow shapes blocked in. You will notice that your shadow colors are not as deep as they were when you first painted them after it's been drying for a little while. That's okay. We have ways of bringing this back through a final layer of varnish or through glazing. For the most part, in your initial lay-in, you want to get the painting as far as you can without mixing any white or opaque colors in with your paint. The last thing I'd like to point out about color variation is this, that this green bottle is not actually green. To reference Miracle Max, it's only mostly green. You can see there is black, violet, blue, orange, gray, turquoise, many other colors. You must look past what your mind tells you to see and open your eyes to the colors that you are actually looking at in your subject matter. Now that my shadows are looking good, I can jump right into the light side of my painting and bring it to finish. Here are a few shots showing the progress. The last thing we'll touch on is fine-tuning. After painting your lights, inevitably you may have covered up parts of the shadows or edges you didn't want to. Simply allow those places to dry, then reinforce those edges or paint over those lost shadows as I'm doing here. After my background is dried, it turned out a little more gray and flat in places than I had hoped. So I'm going to fine-tune it and bring back the depth in the shadows with a glaze. This is done with a very thin wash, made mostly with medium and only a touch of pigment. You can see how it looks on the palette here, as I have 3 different mediums providing 3 different levels of consistency. And here's the final product. Thanks for watching. My finished web page is coming soon. In the meantime, I'll provide a link below to my portfolio page where you can see this and other paintings from this Still Life series. Please like and subscribe to see more videos from the Artistic Enrichment channel. And remember, your best art will always come from your heart.